Have you had to pay for all the doctor's therapies out of your own pocket?
Yeah, I mean, especially things like the MAPS doctor, you know, that's not covered by insurance. We were doing something called mendability for a while, and that's pretty expensive, and that helped a lot with his speech along with the diet. We were lucky at the time because when he was responding to ABA, my insurance did cover it because Illinois had passed a law saying that autism was something that all insurance companies had to cover. So at that point in time, we were lucky on that. But like all the, you know, the ear surgeries and, you know, I mean, just the diet alone is expensive.
Yeah, it's been taxing, but we know of other families that have had a much harder road. So I feel like we're very thankful our road was shorter.
Well, you know, it's still a long way to go, though. You know, he's still, you know, I'm still trying to find him. You know, I could see him, but, you know, it's still difficult. I'm Christina Zimmerman.
I'm Steve Zimmerman.
Okay, and how many children do you have?
We have two. We have a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old. Our 7-year-old has something called Orland syndrome. I don't know if that's vaccine related, but you know, no one else in our family has that. It's a neurological deficiency. And our 7-year-old has autism, PDD-NOS. He was diagnosed around 2.5.
So what happened? How did we get to this stage?
I brought him in to get his vaccines when he was around 2 years old, and the doctor that we were going to at the time, the pediatrician, said he needed all of them at the same time.
How many do you have before?
He had been vaccinated. I think it was like his second MMR or something he was getting, and she gave him a combination of varicella, which is the chicken pox, with something else, and H1N1 too. So it was all of these vaccines all at the same time. And when I was asking her about it, she was telling me it was normal, because this was 2009 or around 2009, and she was saying the H1N1 vaccine was like needed for him. I just remember thinking that, you know, she knew what she was talking about. She was our pediatrician.
It was very matter of fact without just assuming we're going to just kind of follow the lead and take her advice, which it seemed like most people do. So,
you know, we didn't have any previous issues really with our daughter when she was vaccinated. And then he was crying when he came home, but that was normal. We were told, you know, that he would be upset because he had the vaccines and he'd be sleeping more, but he'd wake up colicky, things like that. Previously, he had been talking. He was just a really funny kid, you know. He would always be pointing things out and saying "R" like a pirate, and loved everything with music. And then it was like that week, he just stopped talking, and he stopped
into a shell.
Yeah, he just stopped looking at everyone. And he was like not there. Sorry.
It's okay.
And then it turned out that that same summer, so he was that was around April that he got in his vaccines because it was on his birthday. That summer he was developing all of these ear infections, and so then she was saying maybe he's not answering you because he can't hear because he has ear infections. So she goes through the whole, you know, the alphabet of antibiotics to try and, you know, get him better. And none of it worked. Poor kid, none of it worked. And he just developed so many sensory issues after that. You know, he never had problems really with water. He couldn't stand a touch of water on his skin.
It seemed like we suddenly had to try all these it was like an investigation to find the source of all this stuff, but no one ever suggested, you know, it could be vaccines, or, you know, no one seemed to have an answer or seemed to want to help find an answer. So we almost had to become you had to become almost like a researcher to kind of, you know, find your own way and find your own path. So it became like a secondary job to get to the bottom of it.
You know, figure out how we could help him because we didn't know what to do. And the pediatrician kept saying he stopped talking because his sister's older and girls talk for boys all the time, and I didn't want to accept that answer because I knew that wasn't true. He was talking before that. He was saying things. He was saying phrases. He was communicating. and then he just went away. You know, when we finally got him into a place to get him diagnosed, and well, we had early intervention before that, and it was only for a few months after he had ear surgery and adenoids taken out and things like that. He started to get better, but it wasn't until we brought him to MAPS doctor, and she, you know, took his blood and found out that he had just a lot of gluten, and she told us that he shouldn't have been fully vaccinated, but at that point in time there was nothing I could do. He was already fully vaccinated, so we're just trying to follow what she wanted, you know, what she suggested for us, for him. And so now he's 7 and he talks, and you know, he's more conversational, but it's only been a year. He's only been, you know, before that he signed, he was pretty nonverbal.
Well, thank you for telling your story.
I'm sorry I'm crying. It's just
we all
it's
cry.
difficult.
It's hugely difficult. It's hugely painful, and it was hugely preventable.
Right. And I noticed the change, like, after he got vaccinated, and you know, everyone tells you, don't listen to that. That's not true. You know, the doctor even told me when we started doing mendability therapy, which is sensory processing, you know, therapy, don't fall for all of those things like the diet, because people spend thousands of dollars looking for a cure for autism, and there is no cure for autism. She said that to me, and I told her, well, I'm gonna, you know, do what I'm gonna do that's best for him. And she was like, well, I don't want you to fall victim, is what she told me. Like,
Very condescending.
right. But he's been making progress, so despite her warning to me that I was gonna damage him. It's just so ridiculous, you know. It's just, you know, and I walk out of there, it's like, man, I wish there was another way.
Well, you'd think they'd be more supportive of different ideas, or helpful, or they'd want to help you try everything possible, and instead they only want you to follow their path. So then, you know, if you're not someone that is suspicious, then you probably just follow their path, and that's all you do. But
Yeah.
I'm fortunate you're one that gets a second and third and 10th opinion